Hello, my name is Lance McNeil, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can use demographic data as well as data to help you determine your serviceable addressable market to help determine a viable location for a brick and mortar business. So I have a spreadsheet open here in Excel, and we're looking at, as for an example, where I might establish a coffee shop, where a really good location and opportunity could be. And so I looked at the metropolitan statistical area, the metro area of my hometown, Austin, Texas, and I took the highest zip codes based on the size of the coffee market, and that was determined by total revenue spent on coffee in that zip code. So what I did was I took the top zip codes, basically any market that was about $1 million or greater in terms of $1 million being spent on coffee in one zip code. And I was able to find, I believe, 30 different zip codes in my MSA. So I've got them all listed here kind of by the name of the township and also the zip code. And I've got the population estimate as of 2019. I've also found through a reputable database the average household expenditure on coffee consumption. I've also found the total, as mentioned, the total market for coffee in that zip code. So I'm saying that is more or less going to help me determine my serviceable addressable market. I've also found reputable data on an estimate of the number of coffee shops already located in that zip code. And so I did a little bit of calculation here and I found, okay, well, what is the average serviceable addressable market potential or opportunity per coffee shop? I also looked at the population per coffee shop, and this, I was able to pull this data and put it together, a relatively quick analysis just to help narrow down where I can be looking for the greatest opportunities within a pretty large area, an entire metropolitan area, 5 counties, more than 2 million people. This is going to help me focus my location efforts. So what I'm looking for, I've got it all sorted here by the highest market, right? So the highest market is Cedar Park, a suburban community, mostly huge market size, over 3 million, but there's already an estimated 24 shops servicing consumers in that zip code. So when I break that down kind of per average, it's not a whole lot, right? It's about 138,000. If every coffee shop kind of split that market up equally, it'd be about $138,000 for each slice of pie. And so the population, unsurprisingly, is also not that lucrative. For every coffee shop, there's about 3,600 people that it can serve. So even though the market is the largest here, it may not be the most lucrative opportunity because it's a little bit saturated in competition already. So what I'm looking for is kind of that sweet spot, enough population, a large enough market, but not quite a saturated competitive landscape quite yet. And so I can come down here and maybe I'm start looking in the 2 millions. Well, San Marcos is very similar here, right? It's a very substantial market, but already 27 coffee shops servicing consumers there as well. So I want to kind of come in here and look. When I was kind of looking around, I saw that the average per was pretty high here in Kyle, Texas, which is in a rapidly growing kind of suburban community. And I've got, a total serviceable addressable market of 1.7 million, but there's an estimated 5, there may be a few more coffee shops. So on average, $350,000 and population per coffee shop of over 10,000. So I might, looking at this data, I might want to focus some attention in the Kyle area for maybe expansion or for a startup coffee shop. There looks like there's enough potential where at least I can do a little bit deeper dive into seeing what's available. You have to take into consideration other things, right? So some of these zip codes are primarily downtown, and so you've got a lot of people funneling into office buildings, and that can kind of skew the data that I have here, because we're looking at residential population. I could pull, number of office parks, number of the size of the retail industry, so it could be a shopping district and corporate offices. So there are some limitations to this data set that I put together relatively quickly, but I've kind of got enough data here where I could say, I was thinking about Cedar Park or San Marcos, but second thought, they don't look as good as Kyle. So this can be extremely useful as a starting point. Something's going on here in 78729 that I saw too. It's a $1.5 million market. It's not a ton of population, maybe 37,000 people, but there's one coffee shop, just a handful. There could be a couple more than that, and so the potential per coffee shop is actually quite large. And when I went to Yelp, I was able to find that area, the 78729. So this is that zip code here in Google Maps, and I can see it's a pretty large area. Not a lot of residential here. It looks like the high school is here, but there looks like some residential areas here and a couple main thoroughfares. And so when I went to Yelp to kind of cross-reference this, I typed in zip code, coffee shops in that zip code, and here, there is kind of a gap here, right? So I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's just these coffee shops on the outskirts that aren't technically in the zip code. But what I might want to dive in a little deeper to examine is here in this, I guess, coffee shop desert, right, in this area, is there an opportunity to put a coffee shop, right? Maybe there's enough traffic here at this intersection, Anderson Mill and Palmer, where a coffee shop could do quite well. And this could be a convenient place for a lot of people living here, going this way. I also need to understand traffic flows, right? If everybody in this community is immediately hopping on 183 and heading south, or hopping on this 45 and heading, east or west, then they could be bypassing my coffee shop. So again, there are some limitations, but this is at least highlighting a few opportunity areas, and it gets me started. If you have questions or if you're interested in accessing this data, please shoot me a comment or an email. Happy to talk more about that. Thanks for tuning in.